So for part 5 we end up back inside the buildings. We will want to watch out for hangmen in this room, or noosemen as they're actually called. I just call them hangmen because, well, they're hung men. Hanged men, if you want to be correct with it. But we will be going towards the cemetery here after this particular room. So we have dangers from the ceilings, and we also have dangers from the slayers that are going to be coming our way. And for some reason 2 of them just seem to aggro the boxes up there, so that was kind of weird. And the hangman actually did try to get one of the slayers, so that was also kind of funny. But we will need to make our way up to the 2nd floor to go through the door that they were attacking. They were being really nice and clearing the way for us, so we don't have to worry about the boxes and pulling out our shiv to clear them. But again, this game does encourage exploration, so you can go and get items and other things from around areas. But we're going to be making our way to the cemetery now, which is probably the most haunted, cursed location on this entire island. And if anybody is curious, it is named after Hermes, who is the gas guy. I guess it seems kind of fitting that it's named after Hermes, considering he probably put about half of the people in here. But yeah, you start hearing haunted whispers and a bunch of other stuff in this area. And they kind of just loop after a while, so. But you kind of get an idea of what exactly was going down for some of these people. Like some people going from electric chair, other people getting wrongly convicted, that sort of stuff.
That man caught us.
I just wanted to be with my children.
He abandoned us.
Why didn't Daddy save us?
So many mistakes.
It isn't fair.
Why couldn't we live forever?
Here there's actually an odd trigger. You should probably walk up the rest of the way whenever their dialogue is finished and starts looping. You have to be within close proximity for the next part of that to play, so you'll keep being blurry visioned like I was. I figured it was probably just some wonky stuff going on with the port, but no, you just have to get closer in proximity for the next part of that scene to play out.
It hurts so much.
Dad was never there.
This was your life, T. How did you let it get away?
And then this inmate begged me to give him a weapon. Inmate's got a gun! Drop him!
But here we actually have our first fight with actual correctional officers, so that's kind of interesting. And their weakness is absolutely headshots, so like any normal human being, if you are shot in the head, you will go down. That's just kind of a given. So these guys follow the same logic, and slayers will fight with them. Can't really call it infighting, but they will target them because they are normal people. I would say like Torque, but at the same time, I don't think he's exactly fully normal. But they do offer a little bit of a distraction for us, so it's nice. But since we have a road, we're just going to follow it, and there we can actually see a hint at our next enemy that's going to be coming up. We'll get to that whenever we see it. But you'll always want to be cautious of the ground whenever we do get to them. If you start seeing something burrowing. and we start having some marksmen pop up, but again, the shotgun being such a good crowd control weapon, we can kind of just fire in their general direction and it'll stop them from firing at us. So it is really handy. That guy actually fell out of the map, so that was weird, but it happens. You can push enemies quite a ways with certain things, like Torg's insanity mode ground slams can actually push things back. The shotgun is also really good at it, and sometimes you'll push them up into hills or unreachable terrain, and it is kind of janky, but you kind of just have to live with it. It's nothing too bad because the enemies will still try and shoot at you or get to you, so it's mainly the marksmen that cause a problem with that. And again, flares kind of useless as far as throwables go. But here we're just making work with our marksman special slam. And there we can see the side effects of the marksman, or the mainliner's ranged attack. It will force you out of your insanity mode. So if you are in insanity mode with a bunch of mainliners around, you want to be really careful of their ranged attacks because it will instantly stop your insanity. And you will have to build it back up till it's flashing, because as soon as you use insanity, you do lose the ability to reuse it instantly, even if you cancel it within, like, a frame, because it will still drain to make it not max as soon as it's active. And here it's just the burrower being in the ground, not really doing anything, but just being spooky. So we're gonna let him be and just go down the caves. But yeah, at this point, at this section, if your grenade button is actually working, dynamite is really nice to use. Again, my grenade button was messed up in mapping, so it wasn't working until I fixed it later. But once that's fixed, I start using it a lot more liberally.
Quiet, don't get any closer. They can hear your footsteps.
But here we're going to have the introduction of the burrower. We don't really have a choice because we need to go past this guy, so he's just gonna kind of die. So it gives us a fair bit of warning. They do burrow underground, pop up, and they will absolutely shred you if you're close to them whenever they're doing certain attacks. But the shotgun actually does stun lock them, so we've got that as an option. Your melee attacks will also stun lock them as well, but we end up getting a fire axe later on, which will help a lot more. And they're already referencing a new enemy, which will be explained a little bit later. They don't really come into play until quite a bit after the fact. They're just kind of there to be creepy little girls. The classic horror trope. But we can see that the burrower has like a cyclone attack, and it does hit their allies, or at least it hits other creatures, so we can use that to our advantage. They're basically like a spinning blade trap that if we trigger we can use. But with our insanity mode and having the marksman explosion, we can clear out quite a bit of enemies very quickly. In fact, we're already 3/4 of the way onto our next ability at this point. so we're getting very close to just not having this. Your insanity mode upgrades really, really quickly, depending on how quickly you can kill things or how efficiently you kill things during insanity mode. So sometimes you'll barely even have an ability. Like my bar on this particular part started at basically 0 with the marksman upgrade, and we're already damn near close to getting the next one. So it's definitely use it whenever you want to, but at the same time be mindful, because as said previously, whenever you get to the final one, it doesn't really do AoE anymore. It becomes a thrust that will insta-kill one thing. So the final upgrade is actually kind of worse off for large groups. Because whenever you do have the thrust ability, you actually are stuck in an animation where Torque is basically throwing them off his arm. So it's actually more of a detriment for the final upgrade, in my opinion. It's just one of those things where it would probably have been better for a first stage of the entire thing instead of being the final upgrade. Just because all of the other ground slams are so powerful compared to that singular thrust that it's almost ridiculous. But you'll see more of it later. I rarely use the thrust just because it puts you in such a detrimental position. But here we just want to clear out most of the mainliners. And this hangman waited for the longest time to try and choke me, which is kind of funny. I'm pretty sure I was running around these spots for quite a while and he just decided to pop down and say hi. But we can get a little bit of a flashback over here if we go near this collapsed tunnel. And there it's just showing that this was just a quarry at one point, but there were a lot of accidents and the guards really didn't care, so a lot of inmates have died in this particular place. Which again leads to the whole spiel of Carnate being a place of pure evil that's causing all of these events, but then the second one takes place in Baltimore, which I know is also supposed to be like a crime sort of place, or a little bit more downtrodden nowadays. At least if media is to be believed. I've never personally been to Baltimore, but that's what I get from media. So I suppose it could also happen in any place with gang violence or anything like that. The enemies do change accordingly to that, though. There's a lot more gangster kind of enemies and other stuff like that. They also describe Torg as a sort of primer for the events. They even call him a prime. But we do have some goodies down this ladder, so I do end up going down there. The only thing keeping me at bay was the hangman puddle, so I just activate it, get rid of him. And there can't be more than one in a puddle, so we don't need to worry about it anymore. But we can just do a jump over here, and there's Zombium, a bunch of other stuff. Recommendation is if you are missing health, you might as well use a Zombium bottle if you're full on Zombium and near a pile of it. It's just leaving free health on the table. Kind of a fundamental rule, but you know, it's good to be reminded every now and then of foundations. But here, we don't actually want to throw or shoot any of this TNT while we're in there, because it will absolutely kill us. There I was still through a wall and it almost half healthed me. So yeah, we definitely don't want to be in that little tunnel firing away like a madman, because the TNT blocks along the sides are super dangerous. So I just end up shooting them to get rid of them while I'm not right on top of them, and they will clear out some of the enemies for us. But we'll also take advantage of the fact that this is a narrow, winding tunnel to avoid the marksman. So we can actually dodge around the wall while he's trying to shoot us. And they are kind of stuck in position whenever they mount up, so they can't really shoot around a corner or come around the corner very quickly after the fact. And there we actually get our new ground slam, which is the burrower chains. So we no longer have the explosion of bullets, we have the new enemy attack with where we slam the ground and chains spurt out in different directions. So our ground slam is pretty dangerous at a further length now, but it doesn't have the random bullet spread. And here we're just going to play peekaboo with the marksman. Again, if we have cover, we might as well use it. And then it's just kind of clearing out slayers. But that's why I like to clear out the dynamite. Because we do have quite a few enemies in here, we can try and spawn a lot of them, but at the same time, I don't really like the dangers of the TNT being around at all. Because explosions do take a ton of your life if they happen to hit next to you. So I just opt to get rid of the obstacle and then deal with the other ones. Because to me the TNT is the most dangerous thing in the room, even with all the monsters and everything else. And here it just kind of shows that the shotgun is probably for the best whenever it comes to burrowers. Because it CCs them, you have more opportunity to shoot them. Whereas the revolvers right there didn't really stun or anything for any particular amount of time. So, if you can save shotgun for burrowers, it definitely helps. Or you can pull out a melee weapon and try and stun lock them whenever they're left alone. Because your melee animations actually put you in a state of being locked to a specific enemy. It's kind of got like a hard target effect to it. And if you don't hit something behind you, well, you can't hit something behind you, then it'll have free opportunity until your animation's done. You can also do a roll, but then that'll also stick you in an animation for 2+ seconds, so you kind of don't really have a lot of good options.
Every time I drop one, another one shows up to take its place. Where are they coming from?
But here we're actually going to help these guys out. We have control of this block up here, so we're going to hit the other block with it. And that'll block up the hole. We weren't really quick enough to save them, but we did stop the slayers from coming out at that point. So now we're just going to go into insanity mode and clear them out. And I did hit a grenade there whenever I slammed, so you can see my health went to nothing. So yeah, rule of thumb, be very careful around grenades with anything. Because your explosives can set it off, your ground slam and insanity can set it off, and it does hurt a lot. Like, out of everything that is dangerous in this game, the explosives in the environment are definitely one of the tops. And there, I thought I could jump to that block, but that also cost me most of my health. So yeah, fall damage really hurts too. But here I'm just kind of messing around with the block, trying to get it to a position maybe I can use it in. You don't really need to do much of anything else in this place. Once you knock over the rock onto the hole to stop the Slayer's advance, just jump over the rock. I was overthinking this entire situation, which happens a lot in this game, honestly. You start thinking of, like, complex things that you might need to do or other things like that, and you're just going to disappoint yourself whenever the solution is straightforward. Again, this was from a time where games were a bit more simplistic, so you didn't have to think too far outside the box. If something seems a little too straightforward, that's probably because it is. So yeah, all we had to do was jump over the rock and then jump up the ledge. I know that gives a lot of people trouble in this game in particular, is Torque's ability to hop really high onto ledges, which I'm pretty much in the same ballpark. You forget how well Torque can jump up places. Like, something that's 2 times taller than him, he can actually reach the ledge rather easily. So it is of note to kind of check the environment. Also, that was kind of a goofy animation, not gonna lie. I just thought that was weird and funny. Dude just goes flying and then explodes when he hits the ground. But we're just gonna pull the plunger there and then go through the cave that we just opened.
They just let him die! They suffocated
It's too good
in
for
there!
those fuckers. Let's get them alive.
But yet again, another dramatic event from the past. A bunch of guards being hung after they let people die in the quarry. So, Carnate definitely has some messed up problems that it definitely would benefit from being talked about or explained with other people. But that's kind of how we're in this situation in the first place, is stuff here is messed up as hell. But we do have a lot of marksmen around us, so I kind of wanted to start getting rid of them as soon as possible. And I do find a bittersweet irony in the fact that we're hitting burrowers with their own chains. And here we see the push kind of coming into play. I ended up pushing that marksman up the hill. So he's just kind of chilling. He does jump back down for us though, which is nice. So then we can just end him with a shotgun. And here we have a little hut. We can actually kick the door and check all the stuff in it. And it does have a lot of stuff, so it is nice to open that. And again, anytime we see anything burrowing in the ground, they'll probably pop up and will try and attack us, so shotgun, really good at getting rid of burrowers because it holds them in place. Really good crowd control, decent amount of damage, so we definitely go for that.
Over here!
And here, since we're going for the good path, we will give this guy the block that he can magically airwalk to and escape. So that's a good morality decision. And again, since we're going for the good ending, we're going to do that. And then we move it all the way to the left so we can get out of here. Then we can just jump across. This game isn't extremely good for platforming, but it does do the job. It doesn't expect anything intense of you,
You saw
so
the devil.
it's not too
Close.
bad.
Don't let him get you.
But here, creepy girls being creepy with their even creepier doll. like a voodoo doll almost looking. And yeah, just starting fires. Again, those enemies aren't really introduced until a little bit later, so we're not really worried about explaining them at the moment. But they are probably one of the more annoying enemies to actually hit with weapons. And are probably also one of the most damaging enemies that we'll come across. In particular, just because they like following you really quickly, and there's not really an invincibility frame for their fire trails. So they can be really annoying. But again, on to the next area. We're just going to check behind this truck because there are things that we can grab. Again, if we have low health or are missing health and have full zombium, just always remember to go for that. Refill your health and then pull the zombium. And there, I accidentally hit the insanity button again, so... can prove a point that insanity will instantly be unavailable as soon as you push the insanity button, so... Now I need to actually get rid of something or take out an enemy to build it back. So you do have to be mindful of that. At the same time, it's not that big of a deal, since insanity isn't used a ton. We don't really have to worry too much about losing it. All we need to do is take out one more enemy. But we're going to be at the pond here, and there will be the gazebo, where we can see a cutscene involving our wife.
Broken gazebo. You were so good looking. I thought you were all mature. How old did you think I was? I felt so young with you. But sometimes, I think you only brought me suffering.
She said it. It's done. Title drop, everything, mic drop, we're done. Game's over. But now we have burrowers that are going to attack us after a moment of remembrance. Also weird that the blood splatter ended up on the top of the lake texture. I just now noticed that. Really odd. But we will use the shotgun to get rid of the burrowers. Again, shotgun, really good at dealing with them, since it stuns locks them in place. Eventually, we do get the melee weapon that I use quite a bit on them as well. But we are coming up on the old asylum, which will be in our next part. Involves a lot of killjoy, a lot of analysis of torque, just a bunch of stuff. And now we do have enemies that can be revived via the blue flame effect. So, if we don't completely dismember them, there is a chance they'll come back. So that is another thing that we need to look out for at this time. But we just have to clear out all the enemies here, and then we can go inside the door. And this last burrower was being kind of ridiculous. But yeah, now we'll just explore the area, and then we'll be on to our next part. So, let me know what you guys think, and have a good one.